Have you ever truly wondered how ancient humans, armed with only primitive stone tools, managed to slice through solid granite blocks? These massive stones weigh hundreds of tons, yet they are fitted together so tightly that not even a razor blade fits. History textbooks confidently claim that the ancient builders possessed nothing more than simple copper chisels and ropes made of hemp. But when we examine drill marks that cannot be replicated even by modern diamond drills, the official story becomes hard to believe. Is it merely a coincidence that similar advanced technologies are found in places separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years? Today we will embark on a fascinating journey to 6 of the most mysterious and unexplained locations found on our planet. Archaeologists have argued about these objects for decades, but today we will try to separate mysticism from the real hard facts. Prepare yourself, because what you are about to learn might completely overturn your understanding of the distant past of humanity. Our first stop takes us to the island of Java in Indonesia, where a green mountain hides a very dark secret. Locals have come to Gunung Padang for centuries to pray to ancestral spirits, believing it to be just a sacred hill. Everything changed in 2010 when geologists arrived here not to pray, but to work with advanced scanning technology. They started scanning the soil hoping to study seismic activity, but the instruments revealed something that was absolutely shocking to them. Hidden under a thick layer of earth and grass was not an ordinary mountain, but a gigantic man-made ancient structure. When scientists performed radiocarbon dating on organic matter found between the stones deep underground, the result forced them to double-check. The test showed an age of about 20,000 years, a time deep within the last ice age of Earth. To understand the scale, mammoths still roam the Earth, and the Egyptian pyramids would not be built for 15,000 years. This news instantly blew up the internet because it completely breaks our entire familiar picture of the history of the world. According to official science, humans 20,000 years ago were simple hunter-gatherers who lived in caves and small huts. They physically could not organize construction of this scale because they had no state or agriculture to feed an army. Alternative history lovers immediately declared that Gunung Padang is proof of Atlantis or another highly advanced civilization lost to time. Who else could possess the technology to create the oldest pyramid in the world if not a forgotten race of giants? However, reality turned out to be slightly more prosaic. Geologists explained that these mysterious stone blocks are natural columnar basalts. Nature cast the bricks for this pyramid in a volcano, not an alien factory, but the ancient humans used them. Ancient people found this place and, without complex machinery, managed to drag thousands of heavy columns to reinforce the slopes. This is not a building from scratch, but a grandiose modification of the natural landscape, which is equally impressive to behold. The main mystery here is sociology. How could hunter tribes unite and work together for centuries without kings or overseers? In Indonesia, people used what nature gave them, but what is found in India cannot be explained by nature alone. There, builders did not erect a mountain, but methodically destroyed one to create a masterpiece that is impossible to replicate. Welcome to the Kailasa Temple. When you first see this structure, your brain refuses to understand how it was made. Usually buildings are built from the bottom up, but here everything is reversed. This temple is carved entirely from one rock. Imagine a sculptor who takes a stone and cuts off the excess. Now imagine that this statue is a huge complex. It features halls, pillars, and statues of elephants where every single detail is part of the same original monolith. To create this miracle, workers had to hollow out and remove 200,000 tons of volcanic rock from the quarry. If you loaded this stone into freight cars, the train would stretch for 40 kilometers. The scale of removal is immense. The architects had no right to make a mistake. If a mason accidentally chipped a piece, it could not be replaced. Official plaques state the temple was built in just 18 years. This is where the math drives researchers absolutely crazy. If true, workers would have to remove 30 tons of stone every single day with no weekends or holidays for years. Many are convinced that doing this with a pickaxe and hammer is impossible, leading to wild theories on the internet. Popular theories suggest ancient Indians used lost technologies, from giant machines to directed sound waves capable of softening stone. Some even suggest lasers left by alien guests. How else to explain such speed and precision in a primitive era? Even today, creating such a monument would be an engineering nightmare. However, the answer might lie in organization, not aliens. Engineers explain the secret was vertical excavation. Workers did not need to lift heavy stones up like with the pyramids. Gravity worked for them. As for tools, masters drilled holes, inserted dry wooden wedges, and poured water over them. The wood expanded and tore the stone apart with monstrous force. But the main resource of ancient kings was people. Thousands of stonemasons worked in shifts around the clock, turning the rock into a work of art through sheer discipline. Kailasa is a monument not to forgotten technologies, but to human persistence and discipline, which are more powerful than lasers. This temple stood in plain sight for centuries, but the next structure was hidden from human eyes under the water. We transport ourselves to Japan, to the island of Yonaguni, where a lonely diver accidentally noticed something incredible. In 1986, diving instructor Kihachiro Arataki dove into these waters to find a new place to observe sharks. But instead of fish, he saw something on the bottom that made him hold his breath in absolute disbelief. Before him rose a huge stone machine resembling a stepped pyramid or a fortress, with perfectly flat terraces and angles. Arataki saw straight angles that looked like man-made steps and even strange formations resembling a road going around the monument. The size of the object is staggering. It extends for 150 meters in length and 40 in width. When news of the discovery reached the mainland, the world began to speak of a Japanese Atlantis hidden underwater. The problem is that the ocean level here was this low only during the last ice age, 10,000 years ago. If this is truly a man-made city, then it is older than the Egyptian pyramids by at least 5,000 years. Supporters of the ancient civilization theory claim these are the remains of the legendary continent of Mu, the Pacific Atlantis. They point to details hard to blame on nature: round holes for columns and a rock resembling a giant turtle. Who, if not a forgotten great civilization, could have built such a port before the ocean swallowed it forever? The scientific community is divided. Archaeologists are skeptical, but geologists offer an interesting explanation involving tectonic activity. Yonaguni consists of sandstone, which tends to crack along straight lines when tectonic plates move and shift the ground. Strong underwater currents washed away small stones for centuries, leaving only large blocks with seemingly perfect flat faces. However, even skeptics agree that ancient people likely found this natural foundation and worked to refine it further. The truth is likely in the middle. It is a masterpiece created in co-authorship between nature and ancient humans. Water keeps secrets, but sometimes the earth hides them even better. In Turkey, a farmer just wanted to renovate. Imagine renovating your house, knocking down an old wall in the basement, and suddenly discovering a dark tunnel. This happened in 1963 to a resident of Cappadocia. He found an entrance to a real underworld. He did not suspect that behind his wall lay Derinku, one of the largest underground cities in the world. When archaeologists arrived, they were shocked. It was a metropolis going 18 stories deep into the earth. Here, in total darkness, 20,000 people could live, eat, and sleep simultaneously along with their livestock. They had everything: schools, churches, wine cellars, oil presses, and pens for sheep. A fully functioning city. But the most frightening thing is the depth. Shafts go down 85 meters, supplying air through a genius ventilation system. Why would anyone voluntarily live underground like moles without sunlight? Conspiracy theorists immediately proposed a global bunker theory. Perhaps ancient people were hiding from a nuclear war of the past, an ice age, or even alien invasions. Supporters of paleocontact believe they hid from extraterrestrials patrolling the sky. The security measures are indeed very strange. Narrow corridors allow only one person to pass, and massive stone doors weighing half a ton close only from inside. Historians give a more earthly explanation. Derinque was a shelter from real human enemies who raided these lands. Locals use the softness of volcanic tuff. It cuts easily underground but hardens like concrete when exposed to air. When the enemy approached, the entire population simply disappeared underground. Enemies walked on the surface, unsuspecting of life below. It is a monument not to fear, but to the incredible thirst for life and ingenuity of people driven into a corner. Derinque was a shelter for the living, but in the Pacific Ocean there is a place called the City of the Dead. If you visit the island of Pohnpei, locals will warn you, never stay in the ruins of Nan Madol after sunset. By day it is an engineering marvel, but at night, they say, the spirits of ancient kings wake up. Nan Madol is the only ancient city built not on solid land, but directly on the water among mangroves. It is not just huts on stilts. These walls rise 8 meters above the water and are made of heavy basalt logs. Each column weighs tons. The total volume of stone is comparable to the Great Pyramid, but the context is different. The pyramid was built by millions, but here only 25,000 people lived, with no metal and no wheels. Yet they managed to move colossal blocks from quarries across the island through jungles and swamps to the water. Locals believe the place is cursed. In 1907, German Governor Victor Berck decided to challenge these legends. He opened a tomb and found the bones of giants inside, but his triumph did not last long. The next morning, the governor died in terrible agony, and doctors could not determine the cause. The locals knew why. Legends say 2 sorcerer brothers built the city by playing magical instruments that made the heavy stones levitate like birds. Supporters of paleocontact point to strange magnetic anomalies. Compasses go crazy here, and electronics often fail. They believe the basalt columns act as a giant energy plant. The city layout indeed resembles a complex circuit board. Scientists do not believe in levitation. They realized that dragging stones on land was foolish, so they used the ocean. Basalt columns were suspended under rafts. To lift them, they used lever techniques, stacking logs like a wooden cabin. But the reason for construction was cynical. Nan Madol was a golden cage. The emperor forced all chiefs to live there. It was total control. On the artificial islands, there was no fresh water or food. Everything had to be imported. If someone plotted a rebellion, supplies were simply cut off. It was the first elite concentration camp in history. Nan Madol used engineering for tyranny, but the next object features processing technology that baffles even modern laser specialists. We return to Egypt. In 1850, archaeologist Auguste Mariette stumbled upon a sphinx head sticking out of the sand. He followed the statues to a sealed entrance. To get inside, he had to use explosives to breach the wall. When the dust settled, they entered a world of eternal darkness. Galleries stretched for hundreds of meters through the bedrock. What they found made them freeze. 24 giant sarcophagi made of granite, weighing up to 100 tons each. The size is mind-boggling. Each box weighs as much as 2 tanks. The lids alone weigh 30 tons. Mariette noticed the dust on the floor was untouched. It bore the footprints of workers who left 3,000 years ago. They expected mummies of sacred bulls and gold. But when they opened the lids, they found absolute vacuum. Empty. Why build a 100-ton safe for nothing? Engineer Christopher Dunn found the surface was perfectly flat with optical precision. The inner corners were perfect 90 degrees. Imagine polishing hard granite inside a cramped box to mirror perfection. Alternative theories suggest these were parts of a giant battery or teleportation device, as granite contains quartz crystals. Scientists point to crude hieroglyphs scratched on them, but these look like graffiti left by later people on older artifacts. Experiments show copper and sand can cut granite, but it would take decades of continuous labor for just one box. But the main question is logistics. The tunnels are too narrow for large teams. How did they move 100-ton blocks? And how did they lower them into pits with only centimeters of clearance? Serapeum remains a nightmare for historians. Today we have traveled an incredible path. We have seen pyramids older than history and cities carved into bedrock. These objects challenge our understanding of the possible. It is easy to blame aliens, but harder to admit the truth. Ancient people were not primitive. They lacked iPhones, but they possessed time, patience, and a great purpose. They were ready to work for generations. Looking at these megaliths, we realize humanity is capable of incredible things. Perhaps we have just forgotten what humans can do when driven by faith. Who knows what our descendants will dig up? Will they admire our achievements or find them a mystery? Write in the comments which site impressed you the most. See you.